A rich new contract for local sawmill workers. Upgrades at Fort William Stadium have nearly doubled in price. And T-Baytel announces plans for 5G service. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Riley McManus. More than 200 workers at the local Resolute Forest Products sawmill are set to enjoy some of the best forestry pay raises seen in decades. It comes following the reopening of Unifor's current collective agreement and extending it by 4 years. Mitchell Ringos has the details.
Members of Unifor Local 5025 have voted in favor of the new deal that extends the existing contract by 4 years to September 2028. It means the 200-plus Unifor members at the sawmill on Darrell Avenue will receive an average pay increase of 24% over the life of the collective agreement, plus improvements in various benefits. This includes all the provisions of Unifor's Eastern Canada pulp and paper pattern deal that was reached last spring and ratified by workers at other Resolute operations. Northern Area Director for Unifor, Gary Bragnello, says this will help set a standard for other mills looking for a new contract.
I know other mills that are trying to get the pattern that was set in the East. Some are achieving it and some are just underneath it. It depends on what the local, what their local talks are doing, right? But the pattern set, this will actually help other places out.
Bragnello says the contract extension also provides substantial improvements in language, and with long-term stability, it will boost the ability to retain and recruit talent at the Thunder Bay sawmill. He also says inflation has had a big impact on his members and their families, and this new contract is just what they needed heading into the holidays.
It's like a Christmas present, right? You know, you're coming out in the first of the month following ratification, the trades get $2.50 and the operations get $1.25. Plus then next year, they've got their 2.5% increase, right? So, and they got one in September. So it's really good timing, right? And it'll help quite a bit.
Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
Thunder Bay OPP provided an update today regarding a multi-vehicle collision on the Thunder Bay Expressway Friday evening that led to serious injuries. 3 cars were involved in the crash, which occurred between John Street and Oliver Road. 2 people were rushed to hospital, but OPP could not provide any updates on their condition. That section of the expressway remained closed to all traffic until early Saturday morning. OPP say there have not been any charges laid yet. Thunder Bay City Council will meet this evening with a big decision surrounding the upgrades at Fort William Stadium. The price tag for the project has risen, and city staff are recommending council award the $4.9 million contract to LTL Contracting Limited. The rehabilitation includes replacing the rubber track and artificial playing field, which have reached end of life. Part of the project would also include a brand new LED scoreboard. Mayor Ken Boshkoff says he's in favor of the work, stressing that the community benefits are clear.
I see it as an energizing project. When people see that we're investing in this type of thing, then you get more users and more participation and more spectators, and that helps to build a community. So it's a worthwhile investment in health.
The city won't bear the full cost of the project, as the province is pitching in $1.2 million and FedNor contributed $500,000. 5G cellular service is coming to Thunder Bay in the new year. T-Baytel announced today that the first of their 5G towers will go live in early January, with coverage gradually rolling out across the city and a planned expansion to other regional markets by the end of next year.
We'll have a start with 25 sites in the core commercial areas of the city, including the healthcare and higher education sectors, with a plan to continue to make investments across 35 more sites in Thunder Bay, and then also in the region for Dryden and Kenora throughout 2023 as well.
According to CEO Dan Topatai, T-Baytel intends to invest as much as $200 million over the next 8 years, blanketing the entire region with 5G service. For customers with 5G compatible devices, this could mean dramatically higher data speeds where the new service is available.
But it really provides the opportunity to have a network that is as much as 10 times faster than our current LTE network, which provides solutions for commercial applications in terms of private networks or the next generation of cloud gaming as an example.
TBaytel customers interested in taking advantage of the new speeds can check out the TBaytel website for more information. Webequie First Nation and Ring of Fire Metals signed an agreement recently that moves the community one step closer to formally supporting the Eagle's Nest mining project. The company hopes they'll have the first mine up and running in that region, while for the community, this represents a chance at prosperity. Lee Noonan has more.
The Memorandum of Understanding establishes a process by which Webequie and Ring of Fire Metals will develop another agreement which would formalize the First Nations' support of the mining project. Chief Cornelius Wabas says this MOU doesn't mean a final commitment to supporting the project and that they will first need to look at what would be included in the next agreement.
It's all about working together. It's all about developing a partnership agreement, a relationship agreement, which will include our youth, women and elders from our community, and also practically the whole community.
Martin Falls First Nation has also signed an MOU with Ring of Fire Metals. According to CEO Stephen Flewelling, getting those two communities on board is a key step for the company.
The two most important communities to us, which are the communities that are developing the road network as the proponents, and they're the most impacted and closest communities to the Ring of Fire. So they're our priority right now, but we'll definitely talk to other communities as required going forward.
Flewelling says the timeline for moving the mine project forward will depend on getting the Martin Falls and Webequie access roads approved. Both road projects are at the environmental assessment stage. For Wabas, moving forward with the mining development is about improving economic prospects for Webequie.
It would mean, prosperity, working relationship, opportunities, job opportunities, and also, benefit sharing, and hopefully things will start to improve in our community.
They're very motivated to advance development and improve the living standards in the community, and that means both in terms of the mining projects and the road developments.
The next step for Webequie will be to strike up a committee of community members to work with Ring of Fire Metals and determine what they're looking to see from the company. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The province has announced a program it says will encourage new licensed childcare spaces for those in most need. The government is...
For too long, childcare was inaccessible and entirely unaffordable for so many Ontario families. Parents have said the cost of childcare was equivalent to their mortgage, sometimes more. Many mothers said that they were forced to choose between working or having a child at all.
The government is launching a $213 million grant program for new and existing operators. The grants will prioritize regions with historically low rates of space availability. The province says it'll look at demographics, social economic indicators, and existing licensed childcare capacity when determining where new spaces will be allocated. The initiatives are part of a $13 billion agreement signed with the federal government in March. Diving Canada and hometown high diving champion Molly Carlson are calling on Thunder Bay residents to open their homes to 4 members of Ukraine's junior high diving team. The organization hopes to offer the junior athletes a refuge in the city and to support them in fulfilling their diving dreams. Lee Noonan has the story.
15-year-old Nelly Chukovinskaya is the first ever women's junior high diving world champion. She earned that title on the 12-meter platform in Montreal earlier this month, but she can't take home the gold. The Ukrainian athlete can't go home at all.
We just hosted a group of the team from Ukraine in Montreal of youngsters, the juniors. These are all 17 and younger. And towards the end of the competition, the coach spoke to me and said, "We can't return to Ukraine."
Chukovinskaya and her 3 teammates, aged 12 to 17, have been living in Croatia under the guardianship of their coach. Now, Diving Canada wants to bring the 4 young athletes and their coach to Thunder Bay.
These kids haven't seen their parents in 8 months because they're out pursuing their passion, and they took this opportunity with Oleg, the coach, to, do I want to stay with my parents and in Ukraine and suffer through that, or do I take on this challenge and go with one passionate coach and commit to this dream?
For champion high diver Molly Carlson, the Thunder Bay Diving Club feels like a home.
Well, I grew up hours on end in that pool just training, and it was my safe place, So I think for these kids to see a 10-meter platform in the middle of Canada, it's freezing cold, but you get to walk in every day and still have these facilities is a dream. It was a dream to me growing up.
Both Carlson and Geller, who coached the Thunder Bay Club to national championships, started their careers here. And in between the local diving scene and the large Ukrainian population, they feel this city would be an ideal home away from home for the young athletes. But they also think the athletes and their coach have a lot to bring to Thunder Bay.
These are very accomplished youngsters, very dedicated, very committed, and I think to have that kind of role model around changes your perspective entirely.
Diving Canada is looking for 3 to 4 local families to open their homes to the athletes for the rest of the season. Interested parties should contact Thunderbolt's assistant coach, Andy Ritchie.
We're asking the folks of Thunder Bay to consider whether we can do something very tangible, very meaningful, very direct for an individual, for a youngster who will change their life.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
After a 3-year hiatus, members of the Portuguese Association of Thunder Bay were able to gather once again at the Portuguese Cultural Center this weekend. Longtime member Julio Gomes spoke at the reopening celebration for the facility on Maple Ward Road.
It's very exciting to have so many people in the building. It's wonderful that we're able to be open again to welcome members of the Portuguese community as well as the Thunder Bay community at large. Christmas is just around the corner, and we wanted to take this opportunity to celebrate, bring everybody together, and know that we're going to have a better and brighter 2023.
The event also recognized the Community Building Fund grant, which the association received last year from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. Over $43,000 was provided, which Gomes says allowed them to pay their utility bills, purchase personal protective equipment and sanitizing stations for the site, and keep them virtually connected to the community. Suzanne Sterling, a volunteer with the Ontario Trillium Foundation, says it's important to support organizations like the Portuguese Association because they help people stay connected.
Without that connection, organizations lose that sense of community and that sense of belonging. And then the organizations have to rebuild. Ontario Trillium Foundation did not want that to happen because they recognize the importance of those small communities.
Gomes adds that the grant also allowed them to increase their online presence with a website, which will be up and running soon. Sleeping Giant Brewery welcomed over 100 furry friends yesterday for their Santa Paws fundraiser. The collaboration with Paws for Love invited pet owners to bring their dogs and cats to get pictures taken with Santa. Jess Clement has the story.
For the first time since the pandemic, the brewery was crowded with pets who were eager to meet Santa and each other. The event saw plenty of cats and dogs, with many furry friends dressing up in their best outfits for the pictures with jolly old Saint Nick. The event is in support of Paws for Love, a local not-for-profit dog rescue, and Andrea Mulligan, co-founder of the Sleeping Giant Brewing Company, says she's excited to be able to collaborate again.
A great synergy with craft beer is people love their pets, and most beer drinkers are dog lovers or pet lovers of some sort. So it's just a wonderful way to help an organization in the community, but also just bring people together over a great beer and a furry friend.
It's been absolutely wonderful. The last time we had over 100 people come with their animals. It was amazing, and it's just fun. People get together, they enjoy. Drink a good beer, and then we go from there.
The event brought together pet lovers of all ages, and we spoke to some pet owners who said they were happy to come by and support Paws for Love.
Yeah, we actually foster with Paws for Love, so we wanted to come and support them. And I love seeing all the dogs. I also kind of hoped we might see a dog that we've fostered before, so whole bunch of reasons to come.
And Calla loves meeting new dogs, so we wanted to bring her so she could say hi.
Attendees were also able to meet Mac and Daisy, 2 8-week-old puppies who were both microchipped, vaccinated, and ready for their forever home. Residents who are interested in adopting any of Paws for Love's dogs or just want to support the organization can find more information on their website. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Well, that definitely is an event I would love to be at. I think, Fiona, I'm speaking for both of us there. But back to weather now. Last night was fairly chilly, and today kind of kept with that.
It really did. We had a low of -15, a wind chill of -22. Now, that's not extreme by any means, but compared to what we had been experiencing for the last week, that's quite a shock to the internal system. But during the day, we really didn't warm up very much. We topped out with a high of -12, wind chills continuing to hover around -15, and that's with light periods of snow popping up in some parts of the city. Fortunately, although the winds were from the northwest, so far they have been fairly light. Now, to the west, Fort Frances had a much colder night. They saw temperatures hit -30, and that's not even factoring in wind chill. Right now, they're under cloudy skies, -16, and a wind chill of -22. Little bit cooler and a little bit more snowfall as you head up into Red Lake at -19. They have a wind chill of -24. Similar temperatures in Sioux Lookout, Armstrong, Pickle Lake, Big Trout Lake. Slightly milder in Greenstone. Winds are very light at this hour at -17, and wind chills are again hovering around the -21, -22 range under mostly cloudy skies. Marathon at -14, and Sault Ste. Marie just -5 Celsius. It feels like -9, but they've got some nice wintry snowfall happening at this hour. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay, it's actually not going to get much colder than it already is at this time. We're sitting at -12, where it's going to drop maybe a degree to -13, but the wind chill is going to hit -20 overnight as the winds start to pick up, and we could see up to 10 centimeters of snow. And then after that, we have some very cold air pushing into southern portions of the prairies, into northwestern Ontario, and into the northern states. And it is going to be very cool over the next few days. I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Well, tragedy last night coming from a condo building in the Toronto area where at least 6 people were shot, including the suspected gunman. We'll have those details for you as your Monday news hour continues.
3 victims were members of the condominium board, but the motive for the shooting remains part of this very complicated and very fluid investigation.
An upscale condo building in the Toronto area is the scene of a deadly shooting that left 6 people dead, including the suspected gunman. He was a resident of the building, and police say some of the people that were killed on Sunday night were members of the condo board. Heather Butt has the latest.
A growing memorial near the scene of Canada's latest mass shooting after a lone gunman who lived in this condo building just north of Toronto opened fire, killing 5 people.
Oh, it was I didn't like it very bad. We got all scared, you know.
Police described the scene as horrific. Officers were called to the building for shots fired around 7:20 Sunday night. Ontario's police watchdog says the gunman was shot by an officer and pronounced deceased around 8 p.m.
He's been identified as Francesco Villi. The officer in that interaction is a 24-year veteran of York Regional Police, and he very likely saved lives by his actions last night.
Francesco Villi, the 73-year-old suspect, used a semi-automatic handgun.
My understanding of what took place was there was multiple deceased located on several floors.
They were all residents of the condo building, 3 adult males, 2 adult females. A woman in her 60s also suffered serious injuries.
3 victims were members of the condominium board, but the motive for the shooting remains part of this very complicated and very fluid investigation.
Multiple residents tell CTV News the suspect had a long-standing legal dispute with the condo board.
I've had him in my apartment several times. You know, he was not a monster. I think he was just someone that was failed by the system.
The Prime Minister today offering his condolences.
My heart is breaking for families of the victims, for people who are injured in the hospital still. It's something that is unthinkable. I can't imagine what they're going through.
York Regional Police Homicide Unit remains on scene trying to piece together what exactly unfolded in this condo, described by residents as a safe space. The SIU, Ontario's police watchdog, will also continue to investigate the officer involvement. Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
Meantime, they're digging themselves out today in southern BC after a major snowstorm over the weekend turned the roads into a wintry mess. Ben Milger reports.
The snow began falling overnight, and by morning it turned streets across Metro Vancouver into a treacherous mess. Even emergency responders weren't immune from the mayhem, although it looks like this SUV took the worst of its run-in with an ambulance.
Winter tires and all-wheel drive can make it up this hill.
At times, the Trans-Canada Highway through North Vancouver resembled a parking lot, thanks to a jackknife semi and several spun-out cars.
The problem seemed to be that people without proper equipment on their cars, without snow tires, without experience driving the snow, were the ones getting stuck.
Municipalities and contractors had plows and salting trucks out, but they couldn't keep streets and highways clear of the rapidly falling snow. Unable to continue, many drivers abandoned their vehicles wherever they got stuck, on the median, in the middle of the road, and even partially blocking a sidewalk. This SUV went into the ditch, but wasn't there for long, thanks to kind strangers who stopped to help by towing it back onto the roadway.
Always I see anybody stuck on the road, I just try to help them because we are human, you know, doesn't matter from where, just I try to help everybody.
Despite a high volume of traffic, there were no slowdowns or speed limits on this hill. But there were a couple of crashes.
It's the best time.
It's not too cold out here on the hill for you, though?
Nah, it's fine. The temperature's fine.
Unwilling to take their chances behind the wheel, some found more creative ways to get around impassable residential streets. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Doctors are warning holiday gatherings could bring a surge in patients headed to already crowded hospitals. As Lee LaRocque tells us, one woman spent the night in the only space staff could find, a supply closet.
When Karen Totten walked into St. John Regional Hospital in New Brunswick, she never imagined to find her 88-year-old mother lying in a supply area.
I mean, I was so upset. To see your own mother in a supply room, not expecting it,
Irene McNeil has been in hospital since September, waiting for a nursing home bed. When there was no room for her, the hospital moved her here and hung a bedsheet for privacy. McNeil is now back in a room. The province's health authority hasn't commented on this situation. There's been a growing list of hospitals canceling or postponing surgeries and non-urgent procedures. This BC man has been waiting more than 4 years for back surgery. The procedure has been canceled 3 times.
I'll have to lay on my back for 10 days to 2 weeks. That takes up the hospital bed for 15 days.
And a nursing shortage in Happy Valley Goose Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador is moving some services to Labrador City, more than 500 kilometers away. Across the country, healthcare systems are feeling the strain of the triple threat: COVID-19, RSV, and the flu, which is now at a peak.
We are seeing a turn, but I must say that it's still at a quite high level, almost unprecedented levels for this time of year.
But as Canadians plan to meet in larger numbers this year, doctors say it won't take much for the numbers to go up.
If we see that surge, what type of impact is that going to have on our hospitals?
An increasing surge will put increasing pressure on our hospitals, and again, have them go back to canceling, elective procedures and so on.
It's not too late to get your flu shot. Health experts suggest getting it sooner rather than later for the best protection over the holidays. Leah LaRocque, CTV News.
In Montreal, negotiators passed a new global agreement early this morning at the COP15 Biodiversity Conference. The deal calls for participants to move by 2030 to conserve and protect at least 30% of land and marine areas. It also calls for effective restoration to be underway of at least 30% of all land, water, and coastal regions that have already been damaged. The agreement was approved despite objections from a number of African countries that accused the Chinese presidency of forcing a deal through against their objections. The U.S. House Committee investigating the deadly January 6 insurrection on the U.S. Capitol held its last public